My Policeman by Bethan Roberts. In a wind-swept bungalow in Peacehaven in 1999, an elderly woman named Marion Taylor begins to write a confession. Her audience is Patrick Hazlewood, a man who now lies paralyzed and speechless in her spare bedroom, the victim of a debilitating stroke. Her husband, Tom, is a quiet, distant presence in the house, his life with Marion having settled into a decades-long routine of silence. Marion intends to read her story aloud to Patrick, to finally unburden herself of the secrets that have defined all three of their lives, beginning over 40 years earlier. Her story starts in the 1950s, when Marion is a tall, bookish teenager with a thick plait of red hair. She befriends the glamorous Sylvie at school, primarily for the chance to see Sylvie's older brother, Tom Burgess. Tom is a beautiful, contained young man with blonde curls and deep-set blue eyes, whose muscular forearms and quiet confidence captivate Marion from their first meeting. For years, she nurses a secret and intense crush, her adolescent world revolving around the hope of his attention. One sunny afternoon at the Black Rock Lido, a 17-year-old Marion, now with a fashionable bob, is with Sylvie when a dripping wet Tom appears. He is a member of the sea swimming club, and upon learning that Marion cannot swim, he nonchalantly agrees to teach her. For Marion, who has longed for any excuse to be near him, this promise becomes the anchor for all her future hopes. Tom soon leaves for his national service, but Marion clings to the thought of his return and the swimming lessons that will surely follow. In the spring of 1957, Tom, having finished his service and now training to be a policeman, finally returns to Brighton. One morning, he is waiting for Marion outside St. Luke's, the school where she has just begun her career as a teacher. He is more refined now, his face thinner, but still possessing the same quiet charm. Marion, bolder and more confident in her new professional role, reminds him of his promise. To her delight, he agrees, and they arrange to meet on the beach the following Saturday. The first lesson is a pivotal, sensory experience for Marion. The shock of the cold sea is eclipsed by the thrill of Tom's physical presence. He is a patient and professional teacher, his firm hand on her elbow and then on her stomach as he guides her into the water. In a moment of panic, Marion thrashes and goes under, only to be lifted and carried back to shore in Tom's strong arms. The incident, rather than ending the lessons, solidifies them. Every Saturday they meet, and Marion, a deliberately slow learner, cherishes the hour of intimacy the sea affords them. They begin to talk, sharing details of their lives. Tom speaks of his pride in being a policeman, and Marion of her work as a teacher. One day, Tom reveals a new interest. He has been visiting the Brighton Art Gallery, spurred on by a desire for self-improvement. At his sister Sylvie's wedding, Tom, looking handsome in a new gray suit, tells Marion he wants her to meet someone, a friend from the art gallery who has been helping him improve his mind. Marion, who had been hoping for a kiss, is momentarily deflated, but agrees. A few weeks later, Tom takes Marion to the Brighton Museum and Art Gallery. At the top of the grand staircase, they meet Patrick Hazlewood. In his mid-30s, Patrick is a sophisticated and cultured man, the keeper of Western art. He has dark, well-controlled curls, a neat mustache, and an engaging, boyish grin. He's charming and erudite, immediately putting Marion at ease as he leads them not to a fancy hotel, but to a greasy spoon cafe for pie and mash. Over lunch, Patrick's fascination with Tom is palpable. He listens intently as Tom speaks, drawing him out and praising his ambition. For his part, Tom is a rapt audience, soaking up Patrick's knowledge and worldliness. He sees Patrick as a guide to a more cultured life, a world beyond the police station and the swimming club. Thus begins a period where the three of them are inseparable. Under Patrick's guidance, they attend operas, concerts, and French films. It is a world of heady new experiences for Marion and Tom, funded entirely by Patrick's generosity. During a trip to London to see Carmen, Tom takes Marion's hand in the darkness of the theater, a simple gesture that fills her with hope, but she remains aware that she is often an appendage to the intense friendship between the two men. One evening, Tom takes Marion on a date. To her surprise and delight, Patrick is not with them. After a brief, tense moment outside a pub where Marion confronts him about their lack of time alone, Tom kisses her passionately. It is everything she has longed for. He then leads her not home, but to Chichester Terrace, a grand Regency street. He produces a key and lets them into Patrick's luxurious apartment. He explains that Patrick, who is away in London, allows him to use the flat. Surrounded by Patrick's art, books, and expensive liquor, Tom is boyishly excited. After they devour the chicken and brandy Patrick has left, Tom leads Marion to a spare room. There, amidst his nervousness and her anticipation, he confesses he is a virgin, and in a moment of raw vulnerability, asks Marion to be his wife. Their engagement is short, and they are married on a rain-soaked day in March 1958. Patrick, dapper in a brown suit, serves as best man. Their honeymoon is a single night at the Old Ship Hotel, where, in a crimson-draped room, their physical union is clumsy and painful for Marion, and over in a matter of moments. Afterwards, Tom quickly falls asleep, leaving Marion to weep silently in the dark. For their official holiday, they take a trip to a damp, rustic cottage on the Isle of Wight, a property belonging to Patrick. For a few days they are alone, but the idyllic privacy is shattered when Patrick arrives in his sports car laden with fine foods and wine. One afternoon, while visiting Queen Victoria's Osborne House, Marion witnesses a moment of profound, silent intimacy between Tom and Patrick. Standing near the topiary, their eyes are locked, and as Patrick's hand comes to rest on Tom's arm, she sees her husband's eyes close in something akin to surrender. The image sears itself into her mind. The unspoken truth of her marriage finally becomes undeniable during a school trip to the Downs. Marion's colleague, the sharp and independent Julia Harcourt, remarks on the unusualness of Patrick joining them on their honeymoon, and with startling directness asks if he is homosexual. The word, spoken aloud, shatters Marion's carefully constructed denial. She later confronts Tom, who furiously dismisses the idea as ridiculous, accusing her friend of having a dirty mind, and insisting Patrick is simply a good friend. He holds Marion and is uncharacteristically fierce in their lovemaking that night, as if trying to physically erase her suspicions. The final decisive blow comes when Patrick tells Marion that Tom will be accompanying him on a work trip to Venice. Tom had not mentioned it. Consumed by a jealous rage, Marion tears their bedroom apart. When Tom returns, he's not angry but terrified, confessing that he feared losing Patrick's friendship. He eventually goes on the trip, and Marion, feeling betrayed and isolated, spends an evening drinking with Sylvie and Julia. In the park that night, Julia, sensing Marion's pain, reveals her own secret. She, too, is a woman who loves women. She tells Marion that Tom will never change and that she must accept it. But Marion, unable to process this, rejects Julia's empathy. Feeling abandoned by everyone, she goes home and, in an act of desperation and vengeance, writes an anonymous letter to Patrick's superior at the museum, denouncing him as a sexual invert. Weeks later, Patrick is arrested for an act of gross indecency with another man in a public lavatory. Marion, learning the news from one of Patrick's neighbors, is horrified to realize the catastrophic consequences of her action. Tom, who saw Patrick being brought into the station, has a complete breakdown, smashing furniture and weeping with fear that he too will be exposed. He resigns from the police force before he can be investigated and takes a job as a security guard. At Patrick's trial, excerpts from his private journal are read aloud, detailing his profound love for my policeman. When called to the stand, Marion, in a moment of public reckoning, denies knowing who the journal refers to and testifies to Patrick's good character. It is a small, futile gesture. Patrick is found guilty and sentenced to prison. Back in 1999, Marion concludes her story. 40 years of a quiet, hollow marriage have passed. She knows now that her desperate act destroyed them all three. She finishes writing, packs a small bag, and leaves the manuscript on the kitchen table. Leaving the bungalow, she entrusts Tom, her silent husband, to finally break his silence and read her confession to the man he lost and has now found again.